Hello, and welcome to another episode of Be Inspired. I'm Michael Patton, and my wife Tina Patton. We are your hosts for today. Today, we have joined with us Derrick and Leslie Wesley, and they are the owners and operators of Reposition Inc. We're looking forward to them sharing some tidbits with us in regards to how to navigate your finances. We look forward to you viewing in and catching the information that will be shared in the show today. Hello, and welcome to the show Be Inspired. I'm Michael Patton.
And I'm Tina Patton.
And we're your hosts for the show. We have with us today Derrick and Leslie Wesley from Reposition Inc. And they're going to come and talk with us about navigating your finances. We're looking forward to them sharing with us some tidbits that I believe will be helpful to all of us today to be inspired to have budgets, to be inspired as well to get our financial house in order. Derrick and Leslie, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. We're excited.
Yeah.
Well, you know, finances are near and dear to our heart, Dave. So
both of us working in the industry at one point, and certainly we'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, I am Leslie Wesley. I'm a native of South Bend, born and raised here, and very excited. We're also owners of a business, State Farm Insurance, and so big advocate and youth developer here in South Bend. So we just like to empower people. So our mission started years ago when we said we wanted to start helping people with their finances. And so that's pretty much, but I'm going to let my husband kind of introduce himself to the audience, and then that way we'll tell you a little bit about Reposition Inc.
Sure.
Thanks for having us. And, Derrick Wesley, and from South Bend, Indiana. Went to Ball State University and been in the financial services business for about 27 years.
Okay.
And doing that, learned that we were probably handling money the wrong way. And started reading a lot of books about finance and how to handle finance, and found out that most of the books that I've read come back to basically the Bible on how to handle money.
Sure.
And so we thought that we would share what has worked for us in our family with others in our community.
Yeah, great.
Well, you know, it's interesting. He would talk about, you know, it all starting with the Bible.
That's right.
Michael, you and I have written a book ourselves, God's Plan for Financial Prosperity and Success.
Sure.
And it, of course, gives those basic principles about tithing and giving and having wisdom enough to save.
That's right.
But we're here with you, and we're just really so happy that you're here with us today. So what are some of your simple techniques for jump-starting your credit? So, you know, everybody's talking about finances, so what can you offer people in really jump-starting their credit?
Jump-starting, well, one of the things, my background, I also had a background in banking and mortgages, and also still a licensed managing broker now with the state. So I hold my license in real estate. And so in my background, when we start talking about your credit and your credit report is really something that you really should pull every year. And you really have to really attack your credit. I was one, which was different from my husband, of saying, you know, I came from the background of my credit was not always perfect. I wasn't always a good steward. I wasn't always a good steward of managing my money. And I just thought, oh, you know, I'll buy it now, pay for it later.
Sure.
So I would really share with the audience that it's very, very important to really look at your credit and to know that your credit is credibility.
That's right.
When it's time for you to buy something or to get something, that's when it really becomes very important. And so I share now, even with our children, of the importance of making sure that you keep your credit in order.
Very good.
Sure. And there are a number of other things that can help people to jumpstart their credit as well. Having a banking background as yourself, Leslie, I actually worked in retail banking. And so one of the things that I learned while working in retail banking is that they have credit starter loans. Every bank or every institution and credit union gives you an opportunity to get your credit started through this process called credit starter loans. Credit starter loan is a loan, a simple loan that uses collateral. So normally you can use a CD, you can acquire a loan, $500, $1,000, $2,000, and they turn it into a CD for you, and that becomes your collateral for a 12-month, a 24-month loan, which at that point you now have an opportunity to make payments on a 12-month, a 24-month loan, and you build your credit from there, and you get started and position yourself now for the next. The next may be a new car, the next may be a house, whatever the next is for you in that lending opportunity. You build your credit in the sense that where you show that you can make payments and you have credibility as well at the same time. So it's a number of things that you can do when you talk about jump starting your credit. That's just one way. There are several other ways that we could talk about. However, it's important to do the simple things. Many times people are turned down because they've not done simple things like acquire a checking account, acquire a savings account. Many times we don't go in and we don't talk to the branch manager or the customer service people to get information to help us to learn how to navigate our finances as we are dealing with the institution that we have our money in. So I think it's important that we do some of those kind of things as we establish our credit and we establish ourselves with an institution or a credit union who can be helpful to us as we forge forward and we build our family, and as well we tap into other opportunities that will be afforded to us.
That's right.
You know, Leslie has started talking about something which is we want maybe Derrick to share, but when you're a couple and one of you is maybe frugal and maybe the other not as a spendthrift, but you just are different in that. So evidently you all had to navigate your way through that in your marriage. Can you give other couples, maybe young couples just starting out or maybe older couples, but again, one of them is kind of frugal, the other one maybe not so much. Give us some tips or techniques or something that couples can really do to kind of help that situation along and then still kind of build on their financial rapport.
Yeah, I think one of the first things we do is recognize that we have different spending habits, and we were taught differently how to handle money.
Sure.
And it doesn't make one right, doesn't make one wrong, but I think we can celebrate each of our ways of how we spend money, but come together as a couple and manage, navigate, communicate how we want to run now our little household business. We are co-CEOs of our household. And so what we really do is we basically started out with a budget. You know, that's our main tool. But we do recognize that we have different backgrounds on how to handle money and all, but I think we should celebrate it as opposed to look at our differences.
Sure.
Jess, you want to add anything?
Well, you know, the thing is that the biggest thing is that we take our differences of spending. I was a spender. Derrick is very conservative. I was a hard worker, and I like to save, but Derrick was the budgeter. And so we balance each other. And so one of the biggest things is we have to communicate. And I think that's where a lot of times in the breakdown of a couple, when there's one that's frugal, and then one is a little liberal. And then when I talk with a lot of families and they start talking about where the one spouse is starting to hide things because the other spouse does not like to spend money. And so that's where I think that's where we start seeing a lot of the breakdown. And one of the good things that we've been doing is really teaching our children. From my own experience and having, you know, now my teenage daughter that's getting ready to go off to college is really teaching her, and she is really good at managing her money even at 17 and 18 years old. And even our son that's 17, he is very good. Now I have that 12-year-old who has kind of he's not there yet, but I think that a lot of it is just the way that they've been seeing us. And so I've learned from Derrick, and he's also learned from me. So he's also, I said, let loose a little bit. Kind of let loose a little bit. And then for me, I had to become that steward. And so that's where we talk about, you know, I had to become a steward of my own finances, where it was okay to spend, but it's also very great to save. Yeah.
True.
Well, we are having a good time here
Yeah,
talking to the
we
Wesleys in
are.
regard to
Wow.
finances. And so we're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some debt cancellation techniques.
Kingdom Life Christian Cathedral is located at 707 Sherman Avenue, South Bend, Indiana 46616. We invite you to visit us if you are ever in our area. For information about speaking engagements, please contact us by calling 574-360-6630. For more information about our ministry, please visit us on the web at www.kingdomlifeccc.org or like us on Facebook.
Welcome back to Be Inspired with Mike and Tina. We're here talking with Derrick and Leslie Wesley about our finances. And we, at the break, we're really talking about some great debt cancellation techniques. So let's just continue with that and continue.
Sure. I'm a product of debt at some point in my life. Earlier on, going off to college, going into the military, I obtained some debt over time. I didn't have any techniques, though, or information to know how to get rid of some of the debt I had. We'd love for you to share some debt reduction techniques, because what we're finding, especially with our young people going to college and they're coming out of school with $50,000 and $100,000 worth of debt, it's difficult to come out of college now and get a car or rent an apartment or purchase a house because of the debt that we're accumulating over the course of time. Talk with us a little bit about that. Give us some techniques in regards to debt reduction.
I can relate to what you're saying, because even when I got out of college, the first thing you do is you don't have much money.
Sure.
And you want things in your apartment, you want a car, you want a house, you may have student loans. And so you do start acquiring a lot of debt. And one of the things I came to the realization is that most of my paycheck was going to somebody else that I didn't know. For motor credit, other Visa,
Right.
And yes, I had the enjoyment of the things I purchased, but now I have to pay for it.
That's right.
And after about 2 or 3 months, that enjoyment of the item is lost.
Sure.
So I was trying to figure out a way, how do you get rid of all this debt that I have? And so I started reading a lot of books on debt reduction books, how to get out of it. So first, it really told me, and basically all the books said, list all your debts. List your debts, not your bills, but your debts. And list them from smallest to largest. Don't worry about your interest rate. Because once you're going to start hitting that first smallest bill, and then as you pay that off, you're getting traction.
That's right.
We call it, most people call it this debt snowball, debt reduction. And as you keep going, you're adding that bill to the other bill. And over time, you're reducing your debt. And it's a beautiful thing when that debt is down to zero, and you automatically get a raise.
Sure.
Because now you're not paying debt.
That's right.
To all these companies, and most people find that it generally takes about 2.5 years to get out of that total debt, except your home.
Right.
And but the process is relieving. You also have a plan to get out of debt, and you know it will take some time to get out of debt, because you didn't get in debt overnight.
That's right.
And you won't get out overnight.
Yeah.
So that's the plan that we use. It's the debt snowball plan when we talk to our clients about getting out of debt.
Sure.
That's some good information, because oftentimes we find that people are afraid to do just what you just said.
That's right.
And they can kind of get over that fear, and they can remove some of that debt. Well, what about budgeting? When my husband and I first were married, we had some goals we wanted. We had going to the house and some other things we wanted, and so we set a budget for ourselves. And every month we would write it down in a notebook, and we gave ourselves allowances.
That's right. People laugh at us.
Yeah, we gave ourselves
we had
allowances.
allowances, literally, and we worked off of that allowance, and we saved money at the same time, and it opened doors for us in regards to debt reduction opportunities, but also our bank account began to go up instead of down, because we were able to put money away in different instruments where we could invest our money so that we could see a residual for what we were doing.
But oftentimes we tell people about budgeting, they say, "Oh my God, that's just so confining."
And it feels like it's restricted.
Yeah. So what do you say about budgeting, and how do you talk to your clients in regard to budgeting?
We're the envelope family.
Okay.
And at first, when Derrick first starts talking, we are Dave Ramsey certified counselors. So we've gone through the Dave Ramsey program, and now we give back in the community to teach those Dave Ramsey classes, financial peace. But we are the envelope family. We really, as a family, my husband as a head, we sit down and there's a budget. And so we only go by that budget. And as hard as it is sometimes, being the more liberal,
The liberal spender.
thing too, being more liberal. Mr. Conservative here is very good at really making sure as a family that we really stay in tune with that envelope system, which means that we have our car, we have our eating out, we have our groceries, we have our gas, things that we have in envelope, and that money is budgeted every 2 weeks.
Wow.
So that's how, and I think it's worked for us. How long have we been doing that?
Been writing it out probably about, because I have the originals from 2010, and I still write it out every month because I feel more involved writing it out. Some people may want it on a computer or spreadsheet, but I found that I call it the spending plan. Most people call it the budget. I found that the spending plan is more freeing. That now we know how much money we have, and also we have what we call flow money. So if we budget correctly and we reduce debt, we get extra money to spend each other. We just split it in half. And she likes that part of it.
I know she does. I know you like that part.
I'm trying to get more of his blow money, but he still won't give it to me.
That's not fair.
Yeah. And it's really fun because I'm like, so it gets us involved as a couple. Okay, so that's that communication. So I'm like, you know what, honey, now after 2 weeks, how much more money are we going to have?
Right.
And then there's some months that the blow money is very low, or we don't give blow money. We can't, that's the months that you get the extra insurance, and you have, kids and athletic stuff, and so you begin to really look and you say, oh, okay, so I automatically know during the 12 months, you know what, that's going to be a tough time. So, your gas is higher because it's cold outside, and so that's that communication, and then you start opening up about your finances.
Yeah.
Because so often with couples, if he's on the island, I'm on the island, and he's separated with his own bank account, I got mine, I don't know what bills he has. I mean, we talk to couples all the time that have been married for years, and they said, I don't know my husband's bank account information. I don't know what bills he has, and so it's very difficult. This allows for us to, I'm like, oh, really, we got this much left? Or I know I got to be very conservative in the month of boom.
You're an advocate of putting your money together, finances together.
Mm-hmm.
But you were talking about children, so I want to go there. How do the children handle this envelope system?
Well, it's good because the kids understand. We try to don't use any debt in our family. Now, we do have debit cards. And it's interesting because our youngest, we went to Walmart one time, and I bought out a debit card to pay. He's like, Daddy, you're not supposed to be using a credit card. So you have to explain to them that it's a debit card. The money's in the account, it's automatically debit. So we try to keep them away from credit as much as we can. And so what is good for them is that at the end, we have an eating out budget. If we don't eat out and we cook more in, there's money left in that eating out envelope. Guess who gets to share that money? The children.
Okay.
So they buy in to everything,
and
we try to make sure they get some of that money every month so they can buy in. And also it teaches them to cook at home, to sit down as a family. But it also teaches them that, you know what, it takes 20 minutes to prepare the meal, it takes me 5 minutes to go to McDonald's. But look how much I'm going to pay in relation to it. Plus we have conversation, we sit down, and they cook. So at the end, sometimes they're trying to say, "No, Daddy, we just want to cook. We don't want to go out." So that's how you get them involved in the whole process.
That's awesome.
I will tell you the funniest thing. I got a call from one of the other parents, and this is to have a 17-year-old. She called me. She goes, Wesley. She said, I just had to call you. She said my daughters came home. My daughters and their friends always like to go out to Steak and Shake. So after a game, the kids off, she said, your daughter pulled out a her purse coupons for every last one of those
I love
teenagers
it.
at the counter. And she said the kids came home and they were like stunned. They were like, Taylor had that. She had a coupons for everybody.
Sure.
And so she's processing that. So you imagine at 17 using coupons.
Right.
Yes.
So then at 27 you start building and building and building. And that's what she's catching on. So our habits,
Yes.
is where she's starting to catch on. And so I told her, I said, tell you, Bridget. She said, oh, Mom, when they come in the paper, she said, I was just keeping them. She said, they come in the mail. She said, and I was cutting them out. She said, because in that way I can save my money. And that in high school,
Wow.
to take that on to college. You think about if I had that same, when I was in college, I wish I had known that I could use a coupon.
Wow.
Sure.
Wow.
How much more.
We've got to go to
Incredible.
break. But I like what you said there, that a budget is meant to free. That's a term that Tina and I have used for years. And even in the workbook that we created, it talks about the budget freeing you. Thank you for sharing that tidbit. Not only has it been, the information you shared has been helpful to Tina and I, but I'm sure it's been helpful to our listening audience as we go to break.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
I really needed
a great church. And I kept searching.
and searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list.
But I finally did it.
Yes. Thank you.
If you are looking for one as well,
Look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine.
Use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend.
Problem gone.
thank you.
Welcome back. We've been talking to Derrick and Leslie Wesley about, during the break, about children in poverty. And there's a study out that Hispanics and blacks are 2 times more likely to be in poverty than Caucasian children. How do we address that, and how do we break that poverty cycle?
One of the things I do is based on the information I've learned and what I've seen in the financial services industry, is I always often compare what certain populations are doing, why do they have money, and why doesn't certain populations not have money. And when you really look at it, it's being taught how to be a builder as opposed to being a consumer.
Sure.
Our kids are taught, get the best shoes, get the best clothes,
Right.
get the
Very
Cadillac, get the car, the shiny things. So they go for the fool's gold.
Right.
It's shiny.
Right.
That's right.
Some cultures, even the Jewish cultures, are taught that you're a builder first. How do you be a builder first? They give first.
Exactly.
They save second.
Sure.
They spend last. Our culture spends first. Whatever we may have left, we might give, and there's nothing left over to save.
Sure.
Wow.
So it's just transitioning to what's important. Is it the shiny things, or it's the instant gratification, or is it the delayed gratification?
Sure.
And learning how to manage money and teaching our children.
Right.
When we find out how to do it, the manual in the Bible,
Sure.
we have to teach our children, teach our community, and you'll see things start to change. It's not going to transform overnight, but you will see kids become more better stewards of their money along with their parents. So I think we've been taught bad habits.
Got it.
And then once you teach bad habits, you teach your kids bad habits. And so until you break the bad habit cycle, retransformation of how you think
That's right.
and what money can do, then you're going to continue to do the same bad habits.
So who's going to help me to break that habit? If I have, I'm in a cycle where I'm just a spender, or I'm in debt, over my head. Who's going to help me to break that cycle? I think our viewers want to know, how can they get help?
That's how we came up with Reposition Inc. Reposition Inc. was really a vision that Derrick and I both had after reading a book by T.D. Jakes, which is Reposition Yourself. And it really helped us a lot to really kind of look at ways of where our mission part was to give back, because we had so much knowledge, me being the more liberal and going through my own struggles. And I always find that you're the best teacher when you've been there.
Sure.
And so Derrick, as the conservative, to say, okay, I can bend a little. So when we start going out in the community and really working with different individuals, from buying a house to really managing, we found that that really was our mission. That was our ministry. That was part of what we wanted to do, was to give back. And so we're really coaches, and that's what we tell everybody. We're money coaches, we're life coaches.
Sure.
Because part of that, breaking that, is that we want to go out in the community. We want to teach people. We hold classes. People call us. We have on Facebook, we even have a Facebook site that people can leave questions. And I get questions, inbox questions about, how do I balance, even now with parents, how do I balance right now for school? How do I juggle supplies and uniforms and going back to school on the budget that I have? So I get excited, and we get excited about the fact that we want to teach people.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's a mindset change. It's really impacting their lives by changing things that help them change things in their mind.
Right.
Yeah, that's the most difficult thing I see, is that you when you talk to people, why are you in debt? Because in most things is they're buying things that they think is going to make them happy. And they'll continue to buy those things that make them, they think are going to make them happy. And so that mindset, you become a consumer. I got to buy things to make me feel good, or to make me look happy, or to make me feel successful. And when we don't know whose we are and who we are, we will sometimes go overboard, and we'll find something. Whether it's I buy boats, whether I buy cars, whether I buy jewelry and gold, to try to make us happy. So I think one of the things we got to realize is, first, I think it's important that we know who we are. And I think after we find out who we are and whose we are, we can relax and say, you know what, I don't have to buy all those things.
That's right.
I can become a builder as opposed to a consumer. So, and that's not an overnight thing. It's it's a mindset change. And that doesn't happen overnight.
We're talking about being a builder. I'm reminded of leaving a legacy. We talk about that, leaving a legacy for our children, and we can say it's never too late to start. Never too late to start training your children on how to build their wealth and build finances. So what are some of their, I guess, let me just kind of, as we're closing up the show here, what are some of your components of a good financial plan for someone who's just starting out, or who maybe is starting late?
I often tell kids is know what you're bringing in, know your income, not your gross, but know your net. What you have to actually bring home to work with. Understand that there are some options out there pre-tax that you can invest in before you get your paycheck, that reduces the amount of income that you bring home, but it's automatically reduces also the amount of taxes that you have to pay. Pre-tax dollars, most people call them 401ks, 403bs, participate in those. But once you have your money, you need to really understand what your net is. Start looking at your debt, or what you owe, then also look at your bills, electric bill, gas bill, the things that recur every month. And if there's anything left over after that, when you're writing your budget, your spending plan, that's what you decide on how much you're going to, first of all, you're going to give, then you're going to invest, and then you're going to spend 80% of what's left over. But don't do it the opposite way. And so it is we teach our kids, when you receive money, 10-10-80 rule. It's very simple, the 10-10-80 rule, as opposed to the 100% rule, and then we pay left over.
This is so exciting. You all have shared some information that I believe will bless our viewing audience today and help them to create a financial plan that will cause for them to become wealthy and successful at the same time. I'm reminded that the word of the Lord says that God gives us the power to get wealth. And I don't know about the two of you, but I do know you a little bit that you're walking in that power as well. And we as well enjoy walking in the power that God gives us to be able to get wealth also. But some key things that you said is that we have to be, first of all, good planners. We must be organized, and we must be disciplined if we're going to walk in the wealth that God has created and is giving to us to be able to be successful and as well wealthy. And so thank you so much for sharing the tidbits that you shared with us on today. We have enjoyed you being on our show. You have impacted Tina and I, and as well, you've impacted Michiana.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
having
much.
us.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Be Inspired. We've had a great time with Derrick and Leslie Wesley as they have shown us how to build wealth by giving us some simple techniques how to change our habits. So we ask that you would join us again for another episode of Be Inspired, and then you can also be inspired to be great.